I'm canceling my subscription to DC Universe Infinite once my yearly subscription is up in February, and today I want to talk a little bit about why. And one of the biggest issues I had with DC Universe Infinite was that at the very beginning, it was too cluttered of an app. There were movies, TV shows, comics, an encyclopedia basically all in the app. And now the app has some of those things still. All of the movies and TV shows, from what I can tell, have moved to HBO Max, but you still have things like the shop and the encyclopedia, which actually take you out of the app and to a web browser, which kind of defeats the purpose of them being in the app in the first place, in my opinion, because you aren't using them in the app. Instead, you could just as easily, in my opinion, go to the DC Comics website and get that stuff, or DC Universe Infinite website. I'm not really sure which one it is there. But another reason why I am canceling is because they were so late to the game that by the time I had actually started to buy comics, I had bought quite a few DC comics that are still sitting on my shelf unread. In fact, let's take a look at my shelf real quick. One of the things you'll notice is there's pretty much a shelf of just DC stuff, and then I have a bunch of Image stuff because Image is now part of Comixology Unlimited, but at the time, there wasn't a way to read their stuff digitally without buying it either, so I just ended up buying physical copies because that is my preferred method for reading stuff. But due to how much space I have already taken up with books and comics, as you can see behind me here a little bit, I actually have 5 bookshelves in this room that are pretty much entirely full, and I just want to focus on reading the stuff in this room that I haven't had a chance to read yet. So I'm canceling my DC Universe Infinite subscription for now so I can read the stuff that's on my shelf, which includes quite a few Batman titles. I've actually read most of what's on my shelf. I've read the Grant Morrison stuff and the Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo run, but there are still a handful of titles that I haven't read. I have stuff from The Flash, Green Lantern, Green Arrow. I have some Vertigo stuff like Preacher. I have Hellblazer, so there's plenty for me to read in the meantime without paying for the app. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stay unsubscribed, basically. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a break because I want to get through what I physically have already and make some progress on these shelves, which have many, many unread books and comics, if I'm being completely honest. So, because Marvel Unlimited came out so early, I only have 2 Marvel series really, and one is the Jessica Jones Alias series, which was a Max title. So it actually wasn't on Marvel Unlimited, at least when I first subscribed. I haven't checked on that recently. And then I have the Stand comics, which are Stephen King comics that are also not available on Marvel Unlimited. So I'm kind of just picking up things that I know are not on the Marvel app in that case. So there's still plenty of Marvel stuff for me to read as more TV shows come out, and I haven't been as inclined to do that with DC for some reason. Instead, I've been reading some of the older titles like Crisis on Infinite Earths, for instance, and just kind of reading things there when I need to for my podcast, Welcome to Geekdom. And honestly, I've been covering a lot more Marvel stuff. And it's not that I don't like DC. I love reading Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman comics. I really want to read Gail Simone's Batgirl run, which has been on my list for a while, but right now it seems like the good move for me personally, and I'm not saying anyone else should cancel their subscription if they're getting a lot of use out of it, but I'm just going to read through what I have. It'll probably take me, I don't know, 2 to 3 months to do that if I kind of work at it a little each day because, I'll still be reading books and other things for my podcasts on Marvel Unlimited. So for me, it just makes sense right now to not pay for an entire year of DC Universe Infinite if I'm not going to be using it every single month. Because I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, I read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. I read some other titles here and there, and I didn't really dive into full runs other than Swamp Thing. So for me, it kind of makes more sense for me to just get DC Universe Infinite when I know there's something that I either need to read or want to read and I can kind of just binge. It's not like Marvel where I'm kind of dipping into the app more frequently. So for me personally, I'm probably going to move to a monthly plan and kind of just have it when I need it. So, not that $75 is a lot for an entire year's worth of access to these comics, but for me, I just wanted to see where I could cut things down a little bit. I have so many subscriptions when you factor in, this Marvel Unlimited. I will be grabbing Comixology Unlimited soon. Not to mention all of the streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, so on and so forth that I have. And, DC is kind of taking a back seat right now for me. So if you are a big DC fan, I still highly recommend this for people who are constantly reading DC Comics. It's definitely great. There are still some issues with the app. And actually, next week, I am going to do a big review slash comparison of Marvel Unlimited, DC Universe Infinite, and Comixology Unlimited, once again, those same three, and kind of just go through what I like about each of the apps, what I don't like, and, Comixology is obviously not just the unlimited side of the app, so we'll see how that turns out next week. But for now, I just kind of wanted to touch on why I personally am canceling my DC Universe Infinite subscription. It's only temporary, it's not a permanent thing by any means, which is also the nice thing about these apps. You can kind of jump in and out as you either have time to read comics, have the money to, have an extra service for a month or two, and, just kind of read what you want, binge it, do what you have to do to get these comics read. And it's not because of the app that I am canceling, it is just because of how my reading preferences have been sort of laid out for the podcast. And for me personally, I want to read a bunch of the DC stuff I already have. I have a ton of Image stuff to work through, and I have, some other stuff to do for my podcast that probably won't be as DC based. That's all I have for you today. So thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on social media and check out my podcast. There are links to those things in the show description, and I will see you next time.